No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. The #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Got a vendetta. Coffee tastes like bad decisions I ain't made yet. Boss man talking about we got her, and that means me, brother. Afraid I got a terminal case of the I don't want us. Mind checked out, heart ain't in the building. That second hand's crawling like it hates my guts. The man treating rich like it's a sin, even God took a beat. So, suck it. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and the bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday. Cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't owning me. So raise them up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know. HR in the break room sounding like a preacher, talking about culture smiles and being team players. Clipboard dreams on the fluorescent light, selling hours of my life just to make it to Friday night. Got dirt on my jeans, and grease on my hands, clock more over than quality plans. But when that bell rings, is a holy sound. Feel like chains hit the floor when it echoes around. I ain't lazy, I just work my fill. If rest is a sin, guess I always will. Thank God it's Friday, punching out live. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill's still waiting, but tonight don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday, cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait, it ain't on to me. So raise them up high, let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday, that's all I know. Boss can have Monday, God on Sunday, but Friday night's mine, I ain't giving it away. I earned this beer, I earned this pay, earned every sip I'm about to take. Thank God it's Friday, punching out alive. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill's still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday, cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait, it ain't on to me. So raise them up high, let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday, that's all I know.
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is finally Friday. For those of you working for the weekend, you are there. How we doing? How's everybody doing? Everybody doing all right? Can I get a volume check from the chat? Because my microphone's been being gay again. I think I fixed it, but I may have overamped it. So I'm trying to find out if I'm coming through too hot or not. Because ever since Windows 10 stopped support, my computer's doing some random stuff. So that will be one of the next upgrades, I guess. Trying to decide if I'm going to get a new machine or just update to like Linux or something. I think I may just update to Linux because Windows sucks anyway. All right. So anyway, so we're here, we're live, and thanks, Denny. Good looking out. So we're here, we're live. It's Friday. We're headed towards probably what's going to be termed Schumer shutdown 3.0 over some of the most retarded crap I have seen in my life because they're holding all of Department of Homeland Security funding hostage because they don't like ICE. And they keep saying it's because they want to ramp down ICE, but let's not let them lie to us about this. They want to stop ICE. Ladies and gentlemen, in between the population shifts from red states to blue states, vice versa, which will unfortunately eventually probably have deleterious effects on red state voting because it normally does, but it takes about a generation or so. And the fact that more left-leaning people abort their babies than right-leaning babies. By 2035, the Democratic Party may nearly cease to exist, which is the real reason they have wanted, because they've seen this coming. They knew about this in the 80s. This is why they conned Reagan into wiping the slate clean of it. If we just wipe who's already here and make everybody legal, then we can fix it, because then it's less broken and it's easier to fix. This is why we don't work with them anymore. They keep asking that you'll see it. Chuck Schumer, all of them, all the Democratic talking heads. Why won't Republicans work with us? Because you don't want to work with us. What we're seeing now in society is the same thing we've been seeing from the Democrats since the 80s. They keep telling you that, law enforcement, pardon me, law enforcement officers are supposed to de-escalate. Except the problem is when they use the word de-escalate, what they actually mean is capitulate. So the same thing's been happening in Congress now since the 80s because they got what they wanted, the Democratic side. The slate was wiped clean. It forever changed the voting blocks in California and a few other places like they knew it would. So they didn't want to do anything to address it. So they took their ball and they went home. This was again around the same time that Congress critters stopped congregating with one another. They started eating in separate parts of the building, all these different things, because one side was really, really pissed at the other one, and the other one was twirling their mustache. Ha ha ha, look what we got away with. But now, because they don't think anybody remembers, now you have folks like Chuck Schumer and folks like Hakeem Jeffries who keep going up in front of the microphone. Why won't Republicans work with us? Because you don't want them to work with you. You want them to give you everything that you ask for. That's the only version of working with that you will accept. And it doesn't matter whether you are the party in power or the party out of power. You want what you want when you want it, and you're either going to get it or you're going to take your ball and go home. And they've now proven this, now coming up on 3 times in less than 6 months. And for some reason, people are still voting for these retards. For some reason, some people are still voting for these retards. And I really don't understand it anymore, because they are hypocrites on every front. And they're showing you that they're hypocrites on every front. And we still have a good bit of the country voting for them anyway. That's like this SAVE Act crap. We talked about this on Jen and Rick last night. One of the most interesting things, and hang on, I'm gonna find something and put it up on the screen. So hang on, it'll take me just a second. I think it was on my own profile. So hang on. But one of the most interesting things about all of that is this. So hang on just a second. Sorry, my profile was pretty active yesterday, so I'm taking a moment to have to find it. Okay, so I found what I'm looking for, and this is a graphic I put together after Jen and I finished the show last night. But it illustrates the point quite nicely of what I'm talking about. The same people telling you that you're too stupid or incapable of being able to update your ID and prove that you're a U.S. citizen. Look at the left part of this picture. Now, this is an AI representation of an actual image that I found to make it fit on the screen. Congress has an actual ID card with a barcode and a picture and their name to say who they are. In order for them to be able to vote, they have to insert the ID card first. The photo ID card, you can see it right here, has to be inserted first. And then they have the option. There's actually technically a 4th button over here. I don't really know what that one's about, but yeah, they have the option to press yay, nay, present, and then there was another one. I don't remember what it was. But it's like they think that you're only smart enough to be able to vote like this, Saddam Hussein style with the purple thumbprint. But what they really want, and what they really are hoping that if they scream and yell long enough and throw a big enough fit long enough, that what you're going to do is cave, give in, let them have everything they want yet again, including giving them power back again, because that's ultimately what they want. Because the mean, evil Republicans are trying to take voting rights away. Remember, first it was, they're disenfranchising African American, black, colored voters, whatever fucking term you want to use. But that didn't stick. So now it's all about the women's, because, the women's who can't, because they're never going to be able to verify they are who they say they are, because their birth certificate isn't going to match their married name. So how is anybody going to know? Because there's processes for that already. And they're acting as if they have to do this all the time. Once you're a citizen, they don't have an option to really take that away very much. There is a process. It's old, it's ancient, it takes forever. So it's not like you have to verify that you're a citizen every time you vote. They're just tired of you being able to do what we've now found that folks in California, or folks voting in California that don't even live in California, have been able to do. They've been able to sign up as a registered voter online, check a box that indicates, yes, I am a U.S. citizen. No, I am not lying. And then they get sent all the information to be able to vote, no matter where they are, apparently in the world, because there's somebody from one of the Eastern Bloc countries who has been voting in California elections since 2020 online and getting away with it. Now, they're not actually voting online. They're having the absentee ballot sent to them. But because they've checked that little box that says they are a U.S. citizen, they'll send it anywhere. With all the fraud and everything that we have going on in this country today, do you honestly think we can live on the honor system anymore? Because trust me, I wish we could. I really do. But we can't live on the honor system anymore. And the fact that the Democrats on two fronts are trying to do everything they can to make sure that your vote and my vote get negated by people that basically broke into the country or were allowed to come into the country by the previous administration, which is their real sticking point. You can't really be mad at them because the last administration let them in. Well, the current administration says they got to get the fuck out. Sorry about your luck. Because you didn't follow the right process. We have processes for everything. Everything. I have to show ID to get on a plane. I was actually going through the process to upgrade to a real ID finally, because I'm trying to go to CPAC, not this month, but next month. And I thought I was going to have to go to DC again. Turns out it's in Dallas. So I'm just going to drive if I get my credentials. So I don't have to worry about it. But now there's even a process for that, where if you don't have your real ID, you can pay for an enhanced screening process for $40 every time you get on a plane. So I'm thinking if we have to show an ID to buy smokes, or have to show not only our ID, but actually a medical card to be able to get another kind of smokes or edibles, you choose. It's up to you. I don't judge. Or to get something, to get drinks, or, to go into a bar. I'm pretty sure we can figure out how to make it work for voting, since Congress already has to do it to try to mess with your life. That is the most hypocritical part of all of this, and I keep coming back to that image because it's annoying the crap out of me that we live in a country where the very same people who try to vote down the idea of you having to have a voter proof of ID and citizenship to be able to vote have to have proof that they're part of an even smaller group and of ID verifying that they are who they say they are to be able to cast that vote. Does that make sense to anybody else? Because I have to say it doesn't make sense to me. Like, not at all. All right, so that was kind of my opening rant for the show. We're going to kind of be all over the place today because we got a lot of news to get through and not much time to do it. Plus, we're going to do the extended music tribute breaks, everything else like we normally do on Fridays. But we got to talk about this. So the inflation report just dropped, and the Democrats are probably crying in a corner somewhere. This is from Amy Curtis. I'm sure we'll probably be talking about this on the Weekend News Roundup. This is from Town Hall, of course, where Amy Curtis is a contributor. Now, instead of going through and reading the entire article, because as you can hear, I do feel about 1,000% better than I have in the last month, but my voice is still behind the curve. So we're going to play the clip instead. So hang on. Where did it go? Where did the clip go? Is it there? Oh, wait. I know what I did. I keep forgetting that I can do that now. Sorry, that's my fault. Hang on. I keep forgetting that I can pull them off the screen and then load them and then bring them back over. Restream has made some interesting changes because I have been toying with the idea of getting an OBS stream set up, and have kind of wondered if I really need to do that anymore. All right, here we go.
Well, Kate, look, this is some encouraging news on the cost of living, right? Inflation took a big step in the right direction to start the year off. So consumer prices up by 2.4% year over year. That is an improvement from 2.7% in December that beat expectations, which were for 2.5%. In fact, this is a new 8-month low for annual inflation, month over month. Prices up by 0.2%. Also a step in the right direction, also beating expectation. Now, economists look really closely at core inflation, which excludes food and energy. Core inflation came in at 2.5%. That's notable because that's the lowest annual inflation rate for core since March of 2021, before the inflation crisis.
So they're trying to do it again. And if you've read through any of the articles or most of the articles from the left-leaning sources, and I try to be honestly as center as possible. I know when I give my commentary, it probably comes off as right-leaning, but when I talk about this kind of stuff, I try to be as centrist as possible. And as a matter of fact, I was actually in an argument with my virtual assistant because every morning when we start compiling notes and putting show notes together and everything else, so that I have, at least if nothing else, a basic outline to keep me on track instead of just bouncing from point A to point Z and back again because, ADHD is real. I keep having to break it out of I must work for MSNBC mode, or as they call it now, MS Now. But yeah, and it argues with me every single time. That's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to blah blah blah. Because yeah, when I first fed it the information and had it go look for the new inflation data and core inflation data, along with the employment numbers that we've already talked about this last week, it said, yeah, but this isn't better, and this isn't better, and this isn't better. But the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, it is. In all the places where the blue state governors and blue city mayors are not reaching into your pockets and turning them inside out to get every last penny that they can get from you, they are getting better. In red cities, in red states, rents are falling. Home construction is rising. We have less illegal immigrants trying to flood our housing markets. We're now starting to get to the point where we have less illegal immigrants flooding our hospital systems. These are all things that will cause prices to come down if we can stay consistent with it. But because the left and most of the media, whether you like it or not, is the left, doesn't want you to be okay, because if you're okay, you don't read them as much anymore because they don't have a grip. They don't have you in that fear grip anymore. So they're not getting their click revenue from you. Then you have the left-leaning politicians who are like, well, if we can, if they can get along without us and they stop needing us, then they're not going to give us as much money anymore, which is why everything they do to you and talk to you about is based in fear, which is why I try to do the exact opposite every opportunity that I can, because somebody has to. Because somebody has to. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I think sometimes you forget what I used to do for a living, sir. Sorry, I'm responding to the chat. But anyway. But seriously, the left-leaning politicians and the left-leaning news outlets want you living in fear. And one of the stories I'm going to go into probably more detail about in the Weekend News Roundup, because I, for once, actually have stories to contribute because I've actually carved out some time to start writing again more consistently, is the fact that CNN just got busted burying the lead of a story yet again. So their whole story was former blah, 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 blah from Goldman Sachs is resigning because she's been implicated in the Epstein files. She was Obama's chief counsel. So we'll get into more about that later. But this is one of the things that I want to talk to everybody about, because everybody keeps trying to blame Donald Trump for this. Donald Trump started the process to get this stuff released on his first term. Now, let's not forget, even counting Donald Trump's first term, there were basically out of the last, So 8 years under Obama, 4 years under Biden. So that's 16 years. So 16 years out of 20, now 16 years out of 17 years out of what? So I'm sorry. 12 years. Some math on a Friday. Shouldn't have done this. Anyway, so 12 years out of 16, the Democrats have been in charge. So now we're at 12 out of 17, the Democrats have been in charge. Who arrested Epstein and Maxwell? Who was it? Was the Trump administration. Who's releasing all the documents now? The Trump administration. So who's the real bad guys here? And how is it that for forever the left has known that White House chief counsel for Barack Obama was all over this shit? All over it, including apparently with her damn frequent flyer number. They had her down to her frequent flyer number. But now that information has been released, she's resigning from Goldman Sachs. She going to get perp walked? Who will she flip on if she does? She better be careful because Arkansas is an actual thing. But yeah, so back to the good news. So according to CNN, inflation is down to 2.4%. This is some encouraging news on the cost of living, said Matt Egan. Inflation took a big step in the right direction to start the year off. Consumer prices up by 2.4% year over year, which is an improvement from the 2.7% they had in December. Core inflation is also beating expectations. And here we have another clip, so hang on. I wonder, does it matter? Let me test something real quick. Trying to see if it matters what screen I'm on. Nope, it does not. So that's good to know because it used to be screen specific. All right, here we go.
And an upside surprise here, or a downside surprise, year over year at 2.4, had been expected at 2.5%. And I think one of the reasons is this rent of owner's equivalent rent coming in at a relatively low 0.2%. Energy down 1.5%, gasoline down 3.2%, new vehicle sales up 0.2%. I am looking for the core number, CPI year over year 2.4%, export energy, that came in at consensus plus 2.5%. And real earnings were pretty good, up 0.5% after declining in the prior month. So this looks like a good CPI number.
So there you have it, CNBC, which is probably one of the most neutral news places around anymore and basically focuses on business anyway because they still have NBC attached. So they're not allowed to do as much propaganda as everybody else is. I think that's the real reason that NBC spun off MSNBC, because they kept getting in trouble for propaganda. Which NBC is still doing a lot of propaganda. They just do less than everybody else because there are actual legal requirements because they're considered a news organization, not an entertainment organization. All right. So believe it or not, we're already halfway through the first hour. So we're going to take a break. When we do, we're going to do what we normally do. You guys know the opening of the show on both hours belongs to you guys, which is why we play the Fun Friday song. For the rest of it, we do have... not what I was trying to do yet. We're not ready yet because it's not time for that one. So we're going to do what we always do, though, and actually give out some tributes in the breaks. So this one is to our law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, dispatchers, otherwise known as first responders, including the folks with the headsets, because sometimes their jobs suck the most because they can't really do anything but tell people what to do and hope it turns out okay. And this one is always standing in the gap from our KLRM Radio House Band. Happy Friday. It is Friday, so if you're working for the weekend, you're nearly there. And a lot of you get a 3-day weekend this week. Then I've got a local story update when we come back, because I was surprised to learn something by accident when I was trying to take care of something the other day. We'll be right back. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. Stay tuned.
When the call comes in, Somebody answers, day or night, they're already moving. Calm voices, fast hands, doing the work while the rest of the world freezes. From a headset to a truck, from a badge to a door, they don't stop to count the cost. They step in when it matters. It's not about being seen, it's about being there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Before the sirens fade, before the scene is clear, someone's already making sense of the moment. Keeping people alive, keeping things from getting worse. Some run toward danger, some stay behind and hold it together. Different roles, same weight, same promise to show up. When everything's on the line, they're already there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. This is service, this is sacrifice, this is how lives are saved. No spotlight, no applause, just showing up again and again. They're holding the line when the world goes dark. When everything's breaking, they hold their ground. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line. So we raise our voices for the ones who stand. Every voice, every badge, every helping hand. They don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Always standing in the gap for us all. For those who run and for those who hold steady, for those who stand in the gap.
Well, that wasn't the right one, but we're back. Oh, it's been a day. It's been a day. All right. So full disclosure, I haven't worked quite this much in almost a month as far as trying to get things back on track. I am almost completely, actually, I am completely caught up with our archives as much as I can be because some of them unfortunately got deleted. I've got articles coming out again. We're back to full schedule on here. And I just was looking while I was hanging out in the chat room with folks on the break and got, I have like 14 typos in my title card. Oh my God. Anyway, it's Friday, so I don't care. Anyway, so programming note, we do have the weekend news roundup coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you guys come back for that. You get about an hour break, I guess. So long enough to grab some lunch. If you haven't yet, then come back and hang out with us for probably about 60, maybe 90. Then I'll be back tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Aggie, the lovely Aggie, is off doing some much needed, taking a break from all the crazy. So instead of that show tonight, which is normally He Said, She Said, we are actually doing a Friday bonus edition of Kingdom and Country. And I do have a very special guest who will be announced later, who will be coming on to give a very specific and both heart-wrenching and heartwarming testimony. So I hope you guys come back for that as well. Then later tonight, hopefully I'll have at least another piece or two coming out for Twitchy, and then I'm going to call it a night and get up and start it all over again in the morning. Don't forget, we will also have a makeup episode of Juxtaposition now that I have a voice again, which is Saturday. We also, which I know Valentine's Day, but it's because we love you and it's late. So, all I ask is don't be listening to us while you're doing the giggity. Just saying, or if you do, don't tell me. Don't want to know. Don't want to know. And then the 21st, we do have slated an episode regarding Atlantis. We are trying to get Corin Nimick to join us for that one. He has been off doing some Hollywood stuff. We touched base yesterday, and I'm trying to see if he's still available for sure before we officially announce. If not, we'll slide that one around. I know, giggity and sliding things around, probably not the best two sentences to put together near the same time, but here we are anyway. Okay, so let's see what else we've got. Oh, local story. Interesting local story. And this is going to encompass just a little bit of inside baseball now that I know what's going on. So, all of the state of Oklahoma is operating on the same software system. All of it. All of it. Which is basically a mainframe with a Windows 3.1 overlay. I said what I said. So, I found out yesterday, because I need to update the tag on my car, that they're closed until Tuesday because they're doing a software update. And it occurred to me that if they're having to do a software update at the tag agency, most likely, at least in certain areas, every aspect of the state of Oklahoma government system is currently experiencing some sort of a problem and is probably having to be patched. Because, yeah, nothing like still using a DOS mainframe in the 21st century. Jesus. Did I mention I used to work for these people? Through contract, but I did. So, yeah. So for any of you that, still wear the uniform, if you see me out driving this weekend, yes, my tag is out. No, I can't fix it till Tuesday. Leave me alone. I tried. Anyway, all right. So we had to open with that. Yes, I'm more tired than average today, in case you haven't noticed, which means I'm going to have less of a filter, which some of you like, some of you don't. Okay, so we got to talk about this. I was trying to see if I could find a clip for it. I'm going to keep looking. But this came across my feed yesterday and I was dying. So apparently at a fundraising event in Califailure, the first lady of California basically yanked the mic away from her husband and just started talking like she was the one wearing the pants in the family. Probably not the best look for somebody who thinks he's going to be the next president. I mean, it'll probably be empowering for his voter base, but our side probably ain't going to be voting for none of that. I'm just saying. So yeah, she went on a tirade about the fact that they were asking, why is California's economy so bad, instead of focusing on the fact that they were there to fundraise for Planned Parenthood or something. So while I didn't find that story, I did find this one, which may make me scream again. This is from Jordan Seculo over, or looks like an opinion editorial released through Town Hall. According to Planned Parenthood, infants are not conscious beings and unlikely to feel pain, which we know is a lie. So we knew this case against Planned Parenthood would be vital for babies and women. That's why we labeled it the trial of the century. What we never anticipated was how fully it would expose the moral rot at the heart of the abortion giant known as Planned Parenthood. In open court, the organization's mask didn't just slip, it fell off. According to our team in the courtroom, Planned Parenthood expert Dr. Stephen Ralston, a maternal fetal medicine doctor, that's a weird thing, testified that infants likely do not feel pain because, in his words, they are not yet conscious beings. Ralston stated, I don't know that a 1-year-old experiences pain because I don't know that a 1-year-old experiences consciousness. Ralston, really? Really? So now they're trying to make the case for, oh, well, even up to a year, you can probably get away with tossing your kid out the window because we don't even know if it's conscious yet. Oh, Jesus. Jesus, take the wheel. Ralston also could not tell the court when consciousness begins, stating, I think it's different for different individuals. We're just going to let that breathe. Just allow the full weight of that statement to hit you right square in the gut. Not only do they believe that babies don't feel pain because they're not conscious, I would like to remind you that plants respond to pain stimuli. But you're telling me that babies don't feel pain? Last I checked, one of the first things you do to make sure a child is breathing and clears their lungs is smack them on their ass until they cry. Pretty sure they're not just responding to the touch. I'm pretty sure the touch probably hurts. So look, as a Christian, I can say this. With the women that I've had children with, we had the discussion and we decided together to have the babies. I'm not going to judge you if you've had an abortion. I didn't walk a mile in your shoes. I don't know what led to those choices, and that's not my place. I can tell you that for those of you that have, I wish you hadn't. For those of you that haven't, even if it's made your life harder, I commend you because raising children isn't easy and it's not cheap. And I think that's part of the reason why the left tries to say all the time, your life would be better without them. But you can see the links the left is going to now because they've realized that too many people on their side have bought into that argument. So now they're having to import voters to try to make sure that they don't lose seats in the House over the next 10, 15 years and also still have the chance to have an electoral voice. So instead of fixing anything, they just try to rig the system. So go figure. So, but while I won't judge anybody who's had an abortion, this whole defend abortion at all costs rhetoric that the industry has going is insane to me because the entire industry was willing to cast doubt on whether babies even feel pain at all. This testimony didn't just shock the courtroom, it revealed the extreme dehumanizing logic required to justify abortion on demand, which is insane to me. So throughout the proceedings, the court heard extensive testimony and legal arguments addressing whether Missouri's laws are legitimate health protections or, as Planned Parenthood claims, unconstitutional restrictions. Planned Parenthood claimed to speak for Missouri's women, but in the week Planned Parenthood presented their case, not one Missouri woman testified in favor of striking down these laws. Instead, Planned Parenthood's witnesses were their own doctors, clinic staff, lobbyists, and quote-unquote experts who opined on radical and dangerous ideological stances based on pseudoscience. So among the testimony, and I'm actually quoting from the article for a little bit just to make sure we get it right. 1, state inspectors testified to unsanitary conditions, including moldy equipment and improper sterilization. 2, Dr. Ralston testified that infants and toddlers likely do not feel, so now we're up to infants and toddlers, likely do not feel pain because they are not conscious beings yet. Dr. Ralston also testified that viability is only known if the baby lives or dies. Specifically, if it dies, then it was not a viable pregnancy. Number 3, Planned Parenthood, Great Rivers Action Representative Margot Riphagen testified that she enjoyed working for an organization that pushed the envelope on challenging abortion restrictions. Number 4, attorneys that were paid for by Planned Parenthood for America, by the way, argued that no witness was qualified to speak on abortion safety unless the witness had performed abortions themselves. Number 5, Planned Parenthood expert Dr. Daniel Grossman, an OBGYN, testified that there is no mental health impact on women who have had abortions. There's a lot of data that would say otherwise to that, Mr. Grossman. And yes, I said Mr. You don't deserve to be called fucking doctor. Clinic staff conceded that babies do survive abortions, but Planned Parenthood representatives testified that insurance covering survivors' physical or psychological injuries in lawsuits against the abortion provider is unnecessary because it's burdensome on the provider. Not because they can't prove the psychological injuries exist, because that's what the other guy just said. You know, Mr. Grossman. Yes, notice again I said Mr. Planned Parenthood tried to ignore the tragic circumstances at their own clinics where women were injured to the point of hysterectomies by redundantly parroting the phrase, abortion is very safe. Final issue we're going to be discussing on issues pertaining to abortion, facility licenses, the type of provider performing the abortion or informed consent practices. Planned Parenthood's approach was, trust us, bro, it'll all be fine. Narrator, it in fact was not fine, or we would not be having this court case. Go figure. Go figure. All right, so I'm going to put out the entire article because it's a bit lengthy and I'm not going to read through the whole thing. But I wanted to hit through the meat and actually let you know the parts that I was quoting because I want to give the author credit. This should be coming out on my feed in just a moment. Feel free to go pull it up and come back if you want. Or you can wait till later. Also, for those of you that don't know, X has been really, really glitchy. So if you're finding us on X, even if you're not in the chat room, please make sure you're sharing the feed because it is not auto-populating the shows anymore. And apparently it's a known issue because every streaming platform that I have access to is reporting the same thing. So hopefully it'll be something that gets fixed soon and it isn't Mr. Billionaire Tism going, I don't like how this looks, so we're going to change it yet again. All right, so we've been dragging CNN a lot today, but here's an interesting take again from Town Hall. This is from Dimitri Bold. Let me see. Is there a video portion or is it just snippets? All right, so this is interesting because if you've been paying attention, it seems like in places like New Jersey, in New York City, in a few other places, it seems like the raging uber liberal commie leftists are winning the day. But CNN is trying to warn them. And it doesn't appear that they're listening. So hang on. I think I already have it on. I think I already have it in the background. Yep, there we go. All right. So here's the clip.
The results from that special election, that Democratic primary in the 11th district in New Jersey, speak to a larger point within the Democratic Party, and that is that the far left is significantly more powerful than they once were. This sort of gives the game away here. Democrats who identify as very liberal or conservative. You know, there used to be a lot of conservative Democrats, right? Back in 1999, 26% of Democrats self-identified as conservative. Just 5% said that they were very liberal. It was a smidgen. Now that far left has gained considerably in power. Look at this. Now we're talking about a fifth of Democrats. 21% say they're very liberal. That conservative part of the Democratic Party, adios amigos, goodbye, just 8%. And when you combine the 21% who are very liberal with those who say that they're somewhat liberal, we're talking about 3 in 5 Democrats who identify as either somewhat liberal or very liberal, with the very liberals a much larger portion of the party. The far left, which used to just be a smidgen within the Democratic Party, has gained considerable power, as you saw in New Jersey's 11th district.
What about Democratic socialists, like the likes of, you've got Bernie Sanders or Zoran Mandani here in New York City? Where does that line up?
Okay, so on a separate question where you essentially, CNN asked this last year, which was, okay, Democrats who think of themselves as democratic socialists, among all Democrats, including those independents who lean towards the Democratic Party, look at this. We're talking about a third of all Democrats who identify as democratic socialists. Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mandani are not alone. They are a considerable part of the Democratic base at this point. And more than that, if you look at Democrats under the age of 35, they are nearly half of the Democratic Party. Look at this. 42% of Democrats think of themselves as democratic socialists under the age of 35, just like Zohran Mamdani. That, what happened in New York City, is not some aberration, right? It is not something that just happened in New York City. It is something that we are seeing grow within the Democratic Party at this particular point, when we're talking about 42% of Democrats under the age of 35 identifying as democratic socialists, and a third of all Democrats. My goodness gracious.
So if the ideology of the Democratic Party is shifting or changing, how are people feeling about it?
Okay, so we're talking about the Democratic base, right? But what about all Americans, right? How about all voters? Voters who say the Democrats are now too liberal. Look at this percentage. It was 42% in 96, 48% in 2013, now 58% in 2025 of all voters say that the Democratic Party is too liberal. The Democrats are moving to the left, the far left is gaining power, and there could be some electoral repercussions, because what we see right now is voters, the clear majority, say that they are too liberal.
This is really interesting. Thanks so much, Harry.
Thank you.
Did you catch that tone from her? We're going to back this up.
Democratic Party is too liberal. The Democrats are moving to the left, the far left is gaining power, and there could be some electoral repercussions, because what we see right now is voters, the clear majority, say that they are too.
Look at that body language. And then listen to this tone.
Liberal.
This is really interesting. Thanks so much, Harry.
Translation: I'm bored, it's not interesting, and I don't care. Look, I know a lot of you are not body language experts and you hate it when I do this kind of stuff, but this, hang on, let me make sure you guys can see it. This and this are defensive postures. These two don't like each other. She's talking to him. He won't even look at her. They both have hands in defensive positions. But she's pissed because this, she doesn't want to give it too much credence. But you can tell from her tone, one, she's bored with the topic. Two, the reason she's bored with the topic is because she's actually terrified of this number, but doesn't want to address it because doesn't know how. So, yeah, sorry. I know. Rick's Body Language Class 101 is now out for the day. Well, maybe, unless I see other interesting things during videos. No, Zelda, you came to my show. I can't leave you alone. It's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Anyway. Wait, did I do a Creedence Clearwater Revival quote again and missed it somewhere? I don't have the energy to rewind my mental tape, so I'll just wait for the chat to answer me. Let's see, where are we at? What else we got? What else we got? I got about 5 minutes till the top of the hour break. Okay, so we got to talk about this. Remember, Save Act Shenanigans. Remember, same group that has to insert a photo ID to be able to tell you that you shouldn't have to have an ID to vote. And there should be no way that you have to verify your citizenship, including some Republicans, by the way, because Lisa Murkowski, Republican Alaska, and I put Republican in verbal air quotes in case you didn't catch it, opposes election integrity, and it shouldn't and couldn't come as a shock to most people since she's one of the most problematic members of the Republican caucus. She recently voiced her opposition to the SAVE Act, though, and her reasoning was, shall we say, more than a bit flawed. She posted her statement on X only to get slapped with a brutal, and I do mean brutal, community note. I'm going to take a second to get this put up on the screen, so hang on. All right, and I'm still going to make sure. Let's see. I think I can begin it even more, maybe. There we go. All right, so we're gonna read this together because I know some of you are watching this on your phone. You're like, I can't see this crap. So this is the post, and then we'll take the break. When Democrats attempted to advance sweeping election reform legislation in 2021, Republicans were unanimous in opposition because it would have federalized elections, something we have long opposed. Now I'm seeing proposals such as the SAVE Act and MEGA that would effectively do just that. Once again, I do not support these efforts. Not only does the U.S. Constitution clearly provide that states have the ultimate authority to regulate the times, places, and manner of holding federal elections, but one size fits all mandates from Washington, D.C. seldom work in places like Alaska. Election day is fast approaching, still over 9 months. Well, little less than 9 months away. Chica, but anyway, imposing new federal requirements now, when states are deep into their preparations, would negatively impact election integrity by forcing election officials to scramble to adhere to new policies, likely without the necessary resources. Ensuring public trust in our elections is at the core of our democracy. We're not a democracy, you stupid slunt. But federal overreach is not how we achieve this. And here is the note. Senator Murkowski voted to advance the 2021 voter reforms. She references here. She was the only Republican to do so. Wow. She was the only Republican to do so. I wish I had seen this. I would have tried to write it up before somebody else did. But that's all right. And of course, and I think you can see it on the screen, there is the lovely Foo. You're really standing against voter ID. Just admit you're a Democrat, Lisa. Anyway, all right. So we're gonna take the break. Hour 1 is in the books. Hour 2 will be back and beginning here in just a moment. And again, just as a reminder, please make sure that you are liking and sharing the feeds wherever you happen to be finding us from. And if you haven't done so yet and you want to help us grow in the other places that we are located, we have a Facebook page at KLR Radio. We have a YouTube page at KLR Radio. And we have a Rumble page that should pull up. I think it's at KLR Radio as well, but I don't remember because I think they made me do something weird on that one. I think it may show up as America's Podcast Network, but either way, you should be able to find it. All right. Again, we're going to take a break, and we will be right back. Stay tuned.
Talk for the people, talk that's real. The Rick Robinson Show, where we say what we feel.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRnradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRnRadio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRnRadio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRnRadio.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Got a vendetta. Coffee tastes like bad decisions I ain't made yet. Boss man talking about we got her, and that means me, brother. Afraid I got a terminal case of the I don't want us. Mind checked out, heart ain't in the building. That second hand's crawling like it hates my guts. The man treating rich like it's a sin, even God took a beat. So, suck it. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday. Cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't owning me. So raise them up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know. HR in the break room sounding like a preacher, talking about culture smiles and being team players. Clipboard dreams on the fluorescent light, selling hours of my life just to make it to Friday night. Got dirt on my jeans, and grease on my hands, clock more over than quality plans. But when that bell rings, it's a holy sound. Feel like change hit the floor when it echoes around. I ain't lazy, I just work my fill. If rest is a sin, guess I always will. Thank God it's Friday, punching out live. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. till Monday. Cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't on to me. So raise 'em up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know. Boss can have Monday. God on Sunday. But Friday night's mine. I ain't giving it away. I earned this beer. I earned this pay. I earned every sip I'm about to take. Thank God it's Friday. Punching out alive. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill's still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a barstool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I clerk. Till Monday, cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't on to me. So raise 'em up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know.
Thank God it's Friday, bitches, and we are back for hour 2 of the Rick Robinson Show live right here on KLRradio.com. Don't forget, there'll be about an hour break after this one. Then I'll be back for the weekend news roundup with some of the usual suspects, who we will announce here just a little bit as soon as I can confirm who else is coming on. Then I'll be back tonight, not for He Said, She Said, which is our normal Friday night lineup. However, there will be a special episode of Kingdom and Country with a special guest coming on to give their testimony. And that will kick off at 8:30 tonight. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out with us today. For those of you that are finding us on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and clicking those follow and subscribe buttons, thank you very much for doing that. Look, we like it or not, we went from being like really small to about mid-sized group now as far as numbers. But I still want to take over the world, and I need your help to do that. So, anyway, Raptor, seems like to you every day is Monday, which sometimes really messes with my head and my mojo, my friend. So, yeah, anyway, always got to be the Debbie Downer of the group. All right. So, let's see what we've got. Let's see what other news and information we can get into here real quick. So wait. So this is what I'm talking about, right? So, and I know for some reason she shows up in my shows a lot, and it's probably because she's one of the most prolific writers I've ever seen. But this is from Amy Curtis. I think honestly, when she used to work with us at Twitchy, Fu used to be the monster over there, and at one point Amy was out producing her, which surprised everybody. But now that she's over at Town Hall, it seems like she's doing that again. But this is part of what I'm talking about. So when you see all these different news stories about how, this may be doing better, but really for certain folks, things aren't getting any better. But there's reasons, because again, if you look at red states versus blue states, cost of living is so much better in red states for various reasons. And part of it is because, and look, not every state is perfect. Not every city in a blue state is perfect. Or I'm sorry, in a red state is perfect. But for the most part, the voters try to keep the government out of their pockets as much as possible, which doesn't seem to be the same case in blue cities and blue states. So here's an interesting story out of LA County. Again, Town Hall, Amy Curtis. Democrats like Zoran Mondani and Abigail Spamberger, yes, I mispronounced the name on purpose, ran on promises of affordability. Instead, voters in New York City got mountains of garbage, dead homeless, and increased subway fares, while Virginia is facing a slew of new taxes on everything from gyms to Amazon deliveries. In Los Angeles, Democrats seem less concerned about affordability and more focused on squeezing every dime they can from taxpayers. They've just now voted for a tax hike that will raise the cost of groceries, with the one LA County Republican supervisor voting against it. So, according to the New York Post, an LA tax hike that will raise the price of groceries greenlit for ballot as sole Republican votes against it. And this is a quote from the article. A new tax hike on residents that would spike the cost of almost everything, including shopping, dining, and other everyday purchases across the county, was approved Tuesday by LA County supervisors to head to voters. But because the tax would apply to retail sales and restaurant purchases, it was quickly trashed by opponents who say it raises prices for families, regardless of whether they use affected healthcare services. Lone Republican supervisor Catherine Barger cast the only no vote on the board, which passed it 4-1. I find it interesting that there is an 80% to 20% representation of Republicans in LA County. Or I'm sorry, 20 to 80. I somehow I don't figure that math's probably mathing, but I guess it doesn't matter. Supervisors Hilda Soils and Holly Mitchell pushed the half-cent sales tax they say will help counter looming federal healthcare funding cuts that threaten Medi-Cal services. On the upside, many LA families don't have a home to go to put groceries into, thanks to the slow fire rebuilding response. So maybe they won't notice the higher food bills right away. And this is from Matthew Newsgarden. They need money bad. What's next? Taxing every time you flush your toilet? They already kind of do that if you don't have the right kind of toilet, just so you know. Why do people put up with this already? Oh, funding the fifth world. Wait, there's a fifth world? I was unaware. Now, it doesn't sound like much on the face of it when you're talking about a half-cent sales tax increase, but that's a half cent on every dollar spent, which can and does add up over time. So, just saying, I don't think the left is going to be able to keep this shenanigan fest up for much longer, because people are starting to figure out that while the president and the federal Republicans are trying to do everything they can to bring prices down, it doesn't help in places like California that do everything they can to keep the prices up. Just as a reminder, the national average for gasoline right now is somewhere around $2.75 per gallon. They're still paying $5 and $6 per gallon in California. That's not because of federal government policies, though. That's because of state, local, and city policies there, or state, county, and city. So here's an interesting take on this, and I hadn't I hadn't really thought that part of it through. This is from an X account known as the Jabroni Whisperer. Somebody's apparently a rock fan. Someone has to pay for all the welfare, and it's definitely not the illegal immigrants who puff up California's congressional appointment numbers as a sort of effed up surf ward of the state cast. And then they're pulling from an article. A first in the nation California proposal could make undocumented immigrants eligible for up to $150,000 in state supported home loans, just as immigration has become an incendiary topic in the presidential election. The measure is likely to pass the California legislature this week, where Democrats enjoy a supermajority and in a state that has the largest share of undocumented immigrants in the country. And they're going to tie all of that onto the backs of the working people of LA County. So go figure. Dan McLaughlin, why is Donald Trump doing this? He's if you don't follow him, he's rather sarcastic. So, but I don't know. I just wanted to drive the point home that a lot of the places that aren't feeling the policy shifts at the federal level, it's because the state and county and city level are doing everything they can to countermand the easings on purpose. On purpose. on purpose. All right, there was one other piece that I wanted to get to. This is from Red State. Then we'll take another spin around, see if anything news hit. And this is from Rusty Weiss. This actually just broke. I think it started being talked about late last night, but it just broke this morning, officially on Red State. A 25-year veteran of Customs and Border Patrol has been busted for allegedly harboring an illegal alien lover and her child. So, a veteran U.S. Customs and Border Protection supervisor has been arrested and charged with harboring an illegal alien after authorities discovered the woman and her minor child allegedly living in his Texas home. Supervisory CBP officer Andres Wilkinson, who began his service with the agency in 2001 and was promoted to his latest role in 2021, is accused of knowing the woman's unlawful immigration status and still providing her with housing, financial support, credit cards, and even transportation with a vehicle registered in his name. According to a federal criminal complaint filed in the Southern District of Texas, Wilkinson even allegedly drove her through Border Patrol checkpoints. It alleges he was aware of her unlawful immigration status, yet maintained a romantic relationship with her. Court documents further allege Wilkinson provided financial support, including housing, credit cards, assistance with financial obligations, and access to his vehicle. And, well, probably access to a few other things, too, if you get my meaning, Mr. Frodo. Giggity, 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 goo. Just saying. So the complaint further alleges Wilkinson traveled with the illegal alien to San Antonio and that messages indicated she and her child resided with him. The woman, identified in reports as Elva Edith Garcia Viejo, entered the country in August of 2023 on a non-immigrant visa and then overstayed the authorized period of stay. Wilkinson is facing 10 years in prison and a potential $250,000 fine if convicted. Making the case even more bizarre, law enforcement information suggests the woman may be related to the CBP supervisor since she is the daughter of a man Wilkinson had previously identified as his brother. Maybe I should retract that giggity now. The CBP Office of Professional Responsibility in May of 2025 received law enforcement database research indicating that Garcia Viejo is SCPO Wilkinson's niece. The woman admitted that she has been living with her uncle, SCBPO, definitely retracting the giggity now, Wilkinson since on or about August 2024, the complaint reads. Wilkinson was to attend a detention hearing on Thursday before Magistrate Judge Brian C. Bajou. If these allegations prove true, Wilkinson's actions mark a bizarre and shocking betrayal of his position within the CBP. Wilkinson's duties as supervisor included overseeing the enforcement of customs and immigration laws, and prosecutors have stated the same. He seems to have egregiously failed to do so in this case. No role, large or small, grants immunity from the rules meant to protect the nation's borders. This is considered a developing story, so please check back with Red State or any other outlet that may be carrying the story. But yeah, so fun times. And I now kind of feel icky for making the giggity joke. I really should have read the article before I did that. All right. Let's see. Let's do another quick spin around the news feeds. See if we've got anything else. So let's see what's going on here. So the Army's getting a little savage. This is from Rusty Weiss over at Red State again. And it looks like it's only been out for a few minutes. So the Army issues savage Valentine's Day advice for less attractive guys to avoid honey traps. In the official X account for the Army Counterintelligence Command provided a basic math equation for recruits and or troops this Valentine's Day, designed to help them navigate the ever-perilous dating scene. In short, if you're a dude coming in at a 5 and a woman you and your friends think is a 10 is flirting with you, you might want to take stock of that situation. It doesn't take a mathematician to figure out 10 plus 5 equals honey trap. They wrote, report suspicious behavior. The social media post featured an AI-generated smoke show talking with an average Joe at a bar. Are you a spy? A heart-shaped caption reads, because you're way too cute to be talking to me. Okay, that's kind of funny. I have to admit, that's kind of funny. Granted, it is a pretty funny post, but there is one thing to nitpick here. Why use an AI generated image when you have a really famous real world example of that math equation? Granted, he wasn't an army guy, but 10 Fang Fang plus 5, a generous number for Swalwell, equals honey trap. Allegedly. And we have to say that still. All kidding aside, the Army also has some recent history to draw on regarding honey trap concerns. Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel David Slater, who later worked as a civilian for the Air Force and had top secret clearance at the Ulfeld Air Base, was sentenced to nearly 6 years in federal prison this past October after pleading guilty to conspiring to transmit classified information about Russia's war in Ukraine. Slater used a foreign online dating platform to transmit, according to his plea deal, secret information on military targets and Russian military capabilities to a woman claiming to be a woman living in Ukraine. How did the guy not know some of these messages weren't coming from a real woman? And I quote, breaking 63-year-old U.S. Air Force employee, former lieutenant colonel, arrested for giving classified intel on Ukraine to woman he met on dating site who called him Sweet Dave. More recently, and perhaps more closely associated with the Army Counterintelligence Command post, retired U.S. Army Colonel Kevin Charles Luke was sentenced to 24 months in federal prison after pleading guilty to disclosing classified national defense information. In this particular scenario, Luke texted a photo of secret military operation plans to a woman he met online in an attempt to impress her. Just send a dick pic like everybody else, dude. Come on. Sent to my boss earlier gives you a peek at what I do for a living, he wrote before following up with a photo of a computer display showing a classified email. At least the email didn't have vital information on it, only targets of a planned U.S. military operation, as well as the future date of the operation, the means of executing the operation, and the goal of the operation. Other than that, absolutely no big deal. Gonna say it again, send a dick pic like everybody else. If we're being honest, the advice offered by the Army Counterintelligence Command is general life advice. I'm not saying a 10 and a 5 can't get together. The author of this piece's wife would be evidence of that, apparently. But you really should think it through if you're in the United States military. We used to call that stop thinking with the wrong head. Just saying. Just saying. Even the homeless people are fleeing New York City. You are probably 100% accurate with that. All right, so because the military tribute is a bit long, we're going to go ahead and cue that up now. Then we'll come back and finish up the final segment of the show today. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out with us today. And again, just as a reminder, on Friday we do things a little bit differently. I am trying to find some fun pieces and more funny pieces on that we usually try to do on Fridays, because it's Friday. And that one to me kind of fell into one of them, but some of you may disagree. I don't really know. All right, here is our military tribute. Because you stood, this is an original composition. It's a bit long, but I made it that way on purpose because it's kind of hard to give credit where credit is due and do it at like 45 seconds at a time. So here we go. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Before the oath was spoken out loud, before you stood apart from the crowd, there was a moment, quiet and clear, when you chose to stand while others stayed here. You raised your hand with a steady resolve, knowing some nights don't end when the mission's done. Not for glory, not for the pay, but for something worth more than walking away.
Only hold the line.
They carried the weight where the roads ran long, through dust and heat
when the days went on,
holding ground mile after mile, doing the work that rarely drew a smile. They stood their post when relief ran late, shoulders squared under the pull of fate.
Not chasing headlines, not asking why, just staying put when others pass by. We stand and watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to.
We stand watch over the deep. They kept their watch where the water turns black, miles from shore with no quick way back, measuring time by the rise and the fall, answering duty's unrelenting call. Through silent hours and endless seas, they stood their post in the cold night breeze, guarding the lanes the world depends on, so others slept and the light stayed on. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to. Simplify Marine, we go where we're sent. We go where we're sent. They moved as one when the moment came, side by side through fire and rain. First to step where the ground was thin, not for the odds but for the ones beside them.
Trust was earned in the hard way through, every promise carried by the few. No turning back once the line was crossed.
They stood shoulder to shoulder as brothers,
never counting the cost. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to.
Air Force,
the sky is our domain.
Air Force,
the sky is our domain.
they held their focus where seconds seem eternal, soaring between clouds and blue. Every movement measured and true, knowing what one clean moment could do.
They watch the whole while guarding the small, every mission tied to a larger call. Calm under pressure, steady and clear, keeping the promise from far overhead.
Space Force,
we guard the dark without
they
faith,
keep their vigil
where silence reigns,
beyond the weather,
beyond the rain.
watching the paths that the world relies on, long before the warning lights come on.
Cloud, no banners, no clear view,
just constant care in a canvas full of stars,
standing the watch through the endless night, guarding the systems that keep us in light.
while the watch is kept and the lines hold fast, there are lives still moving on the other side of that.
Empty chairs and quiet phones, long goodbyes that don't feel done.
Names we carry but never say, folded flags and debts we pay. Every service, every scar reaches farther than the uniform ever could.
Coast Guard, we come when it matters most.
They launch into storms when hope feels thin, turning back isn't an option then. Hands reach out where the waters rise,
pulling lives back from the edge of time. No headlines waiting when the call is done. Just breathing restored and another life won. Every rescue, every return, a quiet promise kept in the worst conditions. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through wherever duty calls us to. For the ones who raised the right hand high, swore the oath and didn't ask us why. For the nights you stood where freedom cost. We remember, we on, we won't forget the loss. From the ground to the sea, to the open sky, to the guardians above where the silent stars fly. Every branch, every badge, every battle scar, because you stood, we live free. Oh, we know we stand here freely because others stood before us. We accept the weight of what was given and the cost that came with it. We promise to remember those who serve, those who stand watch still, and those who never came home.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment of the Finally Friday edition of the Rick Robinson Show, coming at you live, and as promised, trying to find some more fun stuff to round out the show, because it seems like lately I've been having to be extra serious and not always a fan of that. Just saying. So give me just a moment here. Let me make sure I'm finding the right stuff. And where did you go? Share this tab instead. Come back over here. Make sure it's on the screen. And here's Senator Kennedy, who I kind of wish was my senator, even though he's ancient. But then again, so am I. So
this discussion we're having is not a discussion about how we should use scarce taxpayer resources to fund the Department of Homeland Security. This is what's going on. The Karen wing of the Democratic Party wants to defund ICE, just like they wanted to defund the police. And we know how that vampire movie turned out. The Karen wing of the Democratic Party is in control of the Democratic Party. And even if we agreed to every one of Senator Schumer's conditions, and I won't vote for him, he couldn't deliver the Democratic votes, because the Karen wing will punish any Democrat that votes to keep the Department of Homeland Security open. And that's just a fact. And that's really what's going on. And as a result, look, I don't hate anybody, but Senator Schumer, he knows what I'm saying here is true. He's kind of wandering around like one of those Roombas, you know. Looks like a man who just lost his luggage. He's negotiating. He's negotiating something, but he can't deliver the votes even if we agreed. So we're not going to agree, and we wouldn't anyway.
all right, so there you have Senator Kennedy basically comparing Chuck Schumer to a Roomba. I think that's an insult to a Roomba, but still. So here's a bit of a flashback, because this is from it looks like around May or June of 2020. This is from NPR. Dozens of public health and disease experts have signed an open letter to support or in support of the nationwide anti-racism protest, White supremacy is a lethal public health issue that predates and contributes to COVID-19. This, ladies and gentlemen, was one of the moments that solidified for me, and another KLR radio contributor said something very similar just a few minutes ago, that this whole thing was nothing but a hoax. Because let's not forget, these were also the same people that were like, make sure when you're going to a restaurant that you have your mask on until you sit down to eat, because everybody knows that once you're below 4 feet, COVID can't get you. Which means Zelda was pretty much always safe, because all she would have to do was duck a little bit, testing to see if she's still paying attention. My guess would be probably not, but we'll find out for sure in a minute. Oh, anyway. All right. So, yeah, never forget the whole COVID-19 thing was just nuts. And there's so many other crazy things that are coming out. Like apparently the California version of Doge. I always want to call it Doge. Or Dodge, because I always wanted to say, get the hell out of Dodge. But yeah, that they didn't go for that. Anyway, yeah, so they're finding millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of fraud in California too. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually start, looking under the hood in all these places. If they don't figure out that if we actually clawed back all of the fraud, we probably wouldn't have a national deficit anymore. Whether we're going to be able to do that or not, I don't really know, but it would be fun to try. Oh, and again, so this one's not my fault. I didn't even see her name. But apparently there's a CBS evening news producer who has penned a resignation letter and was kind of a little upset with the group on the way out the door. This is, however, again from Town Hall and none other than Amy Curtis, and has only been out now for about 15 minutes. The supposed journalists at CBS have been very unhappy since Barry Weiss became the network's editor-in-chief shortly before Christmas. She spiked a story on the CSOT, the prison in El Salvador, where the Trump administration has been deporting illegal immigrants. Weiss wanted some more journalistic legwork on the piece, which caused open rebellion in the newsroom and made some Democrats uber cranky. Now a producer, Alice Hasty, has left, and her resignation farewell is incredibly tone deaf for a network that Dan Rather once called home. But anybody remember how Dan Rather's career ended, though, too? So just saying. And this is from the next account. CBS Evening News producer Alice Hasty sends a bombshell farewell note. Stories are evaluated not just on their journalistic merit, but on whether they conform to a shifting set of ideological expectations. So here's that letter. We're going to go ahead and read the whole thing, or at least the excerpt that I have here. It is with sadness that I write to tell you that I am taking a buyout, and today was my last day in the broadcast center. I joined the network 4 years ago with gratitude and optimism, and I want to leave you with these thoughts only as a reminder of things I know you already know. I am proud of the work that's been done. I need to find some violin music for pieces like this. I am proud of the work that's been done in my time here. Segments that aimed to foreground underrepresented perspective, interviews that challenge conventional wisdom, and efforts, and this is in bold, by the way, to make our journalism more responsive to a skeptical public. Janet Shamilian, otherwise known as Shamalama Ding Dong, sorry, that's me, not her. And I met a widow paying off her farm debt with wind turbines on her land. Major Garrett and I met voters in Metter, Georgia, who disagreed politically but did so with respect and dignity for their small town neighbors. James Brown. Really? That James Brown? Probably not. And I have spotlighted numerous communities buoyed by love, kindness, and care for humanity. But, back to the bold again, there has been a sweeping new vision prioritizing a break from traditional broadcast norms to embrace what has been described as heterodox journalism, whatever the hell that is. The truth is that commitment to those people and the stories they have to tell is increasingly becoming impossible. And again, back to bold. Stories may instead be evaluated not just on their journalistic merit, but on whether they conform to a shifting set of ideological expectations. A dynamic that pressures producers and reporters to self censor or avoid challenging narratives that might trigger backlash or unfavorable headlines. None of this detracts from the talent of the journalists who remain in CBS News. You all produce thoughtful and important work, even under difficult circumstances. That is precisely what makes this moment so heartbreaking. The very excellence we seek to sustain is hindered by fear and uncertainty. Walter Cronkite once said in response to critics, "If that is what makes us liberals, so be it, just as long as in reporting the news, we adhere to the first ideals of good journalism, that news reports must be fair, accurate, and unbiased." If you can look at all the crap y'all have been putting out and put that in bold italics, you got a problem. Cronkite's ideal was one of the best I've encountered. He understood that labels are inevitable, but standards are what matter. And CBS hasn't had any for a while, which is why they've brought in somebody new to helm it. What defines journalism is not what critics call it, but whether it remains faithful to these principles. Your principles as a journalist is to find and share the truth, not your narrative. So please stop opining like you're fucking Lois Lane. Jesus. Anyway, I've always taken comfort in the belief that if we hold fast to those first ideals, trust follows. But those ideals cannot stand on their own. They require vigilance, they require courage. I know that you all will continue to show that courage while I'm tucking tail and running, offering news, guidance, and respect to the millions who come to us every night. Don't let anyone diminish the incredible impact you can and do have. So, bravo for you all for staying in the trenches. I'm out, bitches. It's basically what that letter said. As many pointed out, there are numerous examples of all the times Hasty and other producers chose not to send bombshell notes. The producer managed to send no bombshell note when CBS was pushing the Russia collusion hoax, the Kavanaugh rape smear, various COVID hoaxes, the Biden laptop hoax, and 1,000 other stories that were designed for ideological expectations. That was from Molly Hemingway. Has she seen her own network in the last 30 plus years? Also, she's implying CBS News is MAGA media, even though they're putting out stories like this about ICE with a link to the ICE story that has recently come out, and that's from Curtis Houck. She thinks the work CBS has done in service to the DNC is good journalism. Yeah, that's funny. Sorry, but that's funny. That's funny right there. I don't care who you are. But yeah, so the whole freaking out about it is crazy. So I'm gonna have to check this out later. It looks like there's a podcast out on Town Hall that's talking about the real reason that Michelle Obama can't stand Barack. I'm pretty sure it's because Mike's is bigger. Oh wait, did I say that out loud? Damn it, man. Damn it. Gotta learn to filter, Rick. Gotta learn to filter. All right, so let's take a quick spin around the headlines again, real quick. Remember that story I was telling you about the money starting to show as being stolen from Califailure? This is from PJ Media. This is Stephen Green. So $1 million here, $1 million there, and pretty soon you're talking about real money. Senator Everett Dirksen is supposed to have said more than 50 years ago. And if you do that 370 times, according to California Republican gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton, you might have enough to cover the Golden State taxpayer dollars diverted into Democrat voter machines. The details get a little technical. Money laundering isn't supposed to be easy to follow after all. So we're going to break it down a little slowly and in pieces. Hilton's allegations as quickly and cleanly as possible before we get into the big picture. According to Hilton's unofficial CalDOGE report, after California voters approved the Prop 64 cannabis tax, so We'll get back to what that's supposed to fund. But here's what actually happened. One, Californians voted to fund youth drug prevention through the cannabis tax. Instead, $370 million in revenue is bankrolling left-wing activism. Two, the money flows through a single unelected nonprofit, the Center at Sierra Health Foundation's Elevate Youth Program. Three, the center has gotten rich off this arrangement, growing from $11.8 million in 2018 to $197 million in 2024. The CEO makes over $600,000 annually. Number four, the center runs Prop $64 through a web of NGOs, including the Jakara Movement, Young Invincibles, and Asian Refugees United for activism, organizing, and voter registration. This is not drug prevention. It's taxpayer-funded pipeline from the governor's office to the left-wing political organizations. So those are the voter machines referenced earlier. There's nothing wrong with voter registration and the get out the vote efforts, but using state funds to favor one party, well, that's what happens when one party blue strongholds exist, such as Califailure. Here's the kicker, so to speak. The money was supposed to go towards solving youth substance abuse problems. So let's go back to that center at Sierra Health Foundation, because it's just one state level example of the national level corruption uncovered last year by Elon Musk's Doge and Data Republican. According to Hilton's organization, Sierra Health retains 15 to 20% of the cannabis tax revenues as administrative fees, which is nice non-work if you can get it. From there, the center then subgrants the remaining funds to community-based organizations through its own application process. So imagine, if you will, that the Republican Congress outsourced federal gasoline tax collection to a private nonprofit and then let them skim a generous portion off the top, then sent the rest to organizations friendly to the GOP. Because if Cal Doge has it right, that's exactly what's happened to more than a third of $1 billion in cannabis tax revenue, except it went to the party that Califailure likes. The state does not pick who gets the grants, according to Cal Doge said. The intermediary does, bypassing the rigorous procurement process mandated for direct government contracts under the Department of General Services and State Controller Oversight. So, according to the California Parapolitical Practices Commission's Behested Payment Transparency Report, pages 19 and 20 in 2020 alone, Sierra Health Foundation was the third largest payor of behested payments statewide at $14,774,724, and the single largest payee of behested payments statewide at $30,869,901. Payments Newsom solicited from private companies. Newsom himself was the top behesting official in the state that year at $226.8 million in total. The report continues, and Sierra Health Foundation ranked among his top 3 financial partners in that system. Youth drug prevention? That's not what happened, though. Seems like there's been a pretty good case of bait and switch yet again. Surprising absolutely no one, unless you're a leftist who still won't wake up to the fact that your party fucking sucks. So if the first step is admitting you have a problem, the second is acknowledging that the problem is Democrats. Just saying. All right. Believe it or not, folks, we are coming to the end of our time together, but we do still have a couple minutes left. So don't worry, we're not rushing off quite yet. Let's see what's going over here. I haven't looked over here in a while. Hang on. So they've got that story. We've already talked about it. Okay, so hang on. Let me see if this one will open. We got a Florida man story. I haven't done one of those in a while, and this one might actually be a decent Florida man story. So a Florida man has chased alleged armed crooks out of his home and rammed their SUV into the ditch, but trio flee on foot into the woods. This is from Dave Urbanski over at The Blaze. Don't worry, they didn't get very far, though. The sheriff's office in Bay County, Florida, said officers responded Tuesday to a report of home invasion and robbery at a residence in the 8200 block of Random Road Interesting for a Florida name for a street. The area is about 10 minutes north of Panama City Beach. Patrol deputies made contact with the victim, who reported that two masked suspects entered his home while he was sleeping and stole a large amount of cash, according to officials. He said Swartz earlier in the evening contacted him by phone requesting to visit his home and stating that she got his number through a mutual acquaintance, according to officials. So the victim stated he confronted the suspects inside the residence and chased them out. Officials also added that the suspects then fled in their SUV. The victim then entered his own vehicle and pursued the SUV off Random Road and eastbound onto Highway 388. Eastbound and down, gonna track you. Sorry, anyway. According to officials, as we get back to the actual story. During the chase, the victim reported striking the suspect vehicle multiple times in an attempt to stop it. Officials continued, adding that after the final impact, the suspect vehicle swerved and crashed into a ditch. When deputies arrived, they learned that the occupants of the crashed vehicle fled on foot into a nearby wooded area, officials stated. Investigators soon learned that the crashed vehicle was registered to 22-year-old Sierra Swords. While processing the scene, investigators found a large amount of cash in the vehicle and on the ground near the driver's door. Officials added that the cash appeared consistent with the victim's report of money taken during the home invasion. The victim, amid the investigation, also provided additional information about events preceding the robbery, again, according to unnamed officials. He said Swartz early in the evening contacted him by phone requesting to visit his home and stating she got his number through a mutual acquaintance. Dude thought he was going to get a hookup. How much you want to bet? The victim agreed, and Swartz arrived soon after and remained at the residence for about 15 to 30 minutes before leaving. The victim added that he displayed a large amount of cash while giving money to his girlfriend and while Swartz was present, which may have been observed. After Swartz left, the victim fell asleep, officials said, after which he said his girlfriend woke him up screaming that individuals were taking his money. I think we need to find more out about this supposed victim. What do y'all think? The victim saw two masked males inside the residence. Officials described one as a tall, larger white male and the other as a shorter black male armed with a baseball bat. Why you gotta make the black man short, yo? Isn't that racist? Oh, sorry. The victim's girlfriend also reported seeing what appeared to be a handgun in possession of one of the suspects. Deputies detained one suspect in the woods, later identified as 37-year-old James Crow. Officials added that Crow provided information identifying two additional suspects and detailed events leading up to and following the robbery. As the search continued, investigators found Swartz walking along the road west of the crash site. A short time later, investigators saw the third suspect, Devarius Stewart, seated in the passenger seat of a vehicle stopped in the area. Dude, the person who's writing this piece says officials said at the end of every fucking sentence, which is why if you hear me pausing and rewording things, it's because I'm tired of having. How much do you pay this guy? Stewart initially refused commands to exit the vehicle, again, officials said. However, with the arrival of additional units, Stewart and Swartz were detained, transported to Bay County Sheriff's Office for interviews, officials said. Jesus Christ. Stop it! Oh, sorry. I'm not gonna keep reading this. It's just going and going and going, and every damn sentence and every damn paragraph ends with officials said. I don't know what they're paying this guy over at the Blaze, but it's about maybe he might deserve 10 cents a story. Jesus Christ. Oh, anyway, sorry, I'm a little cranky, but dude, I go through painstaking efforts to make sure that I don't repeat the same words over and over and over and over again when I write stories because it's annoying. And if it's annoying to me, then I know it's probably annoying to you. All right. This might explain a few things about why Gen Z is so cranky. According to most recent information, Gen Z might in fact be the least laid generation in history. Figured we'd go out with a bang. So research from the National Institute on Drug Abuse shows that lifetime drinking, past month drinking and past year drinking among young people began to decline around the year 2000. That means that such decliners have especially impacted Generation Z, defined as anyone born from 1997 to 2012, and some millennials born between 1981 and 1996. It is becoming clear that for whatever reasons, today's younger generations are just less interested in alcohol and are more likely than older generations to see it as risky for their health and to participate in periods of abstinence, like Dry January, said National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism George F. Koob in a statement. Maybe that's not coincidental. Perhaps there's a causal link. As famed philosopher Jimmy Buffett once suggested, maybe just like peanut butter and jelly are complementary products, sex and alcohol are too. Koob seemed to agree with Buffett. Another contributing factor has to do with the changing socialization pattern of younger generations. Alcohol tends to be a social drug, even for young people, so part of the decline in underage drinking could be related to less in-person socialization, according to Koob. On average, the amount of time people spent with friends in person decreased from 30 hours a month in 2003 to 10 hours a month in 2020, and then plummeted even further because of COVID and hasn't quite recovered. According to the U.S. Surgeon General's advisory on the epidemic of loneliness, the decline was especially marked for people ages 15 to 24. So back in 1991, more than half, or 54.1% of high school students were sexually active. The other 45.9% lied about it. By 2007, the number fell to 47.8%. 4 years later, it dropped again to 43%. By 2017, it was just 39.5%. As of 2023, it is down to 31.6%. What's going on with kids today with their wild, out of self-control abstinence and crazy teeter-tottering, or crazy teetotaling? It's one of the strangest, most inexplicable cultural shifts in recent memory. I was certainly blindsided. I figured our sex drive was so biologically ingrained, it would never go away. But it has, and with it, so has the U.S. birth rate. It's now at a 40-year low. We need a birth rate of 2.1 babies per woman to maintain our population. We're currently at 1.6. For decades, our shrinking birth rate was masked by immigration growth. In 1991, the U.S. population was 253 million. By 2025, it grew to 343.6 million. Since 2020, immigration has been the number one driver of American population growth. With the new crackdown on illegal immigrants, we are flirting with our first ever population decline. And it's not just an American phenomenon. All over the world, birth rates have collapsed. At least one geopolitical strategist and demographic expert predicts it'll lead to the end of China within the next 10 years, which is one reason why they are so gung-ho on trying to get a hold of, the little island that they're... Same thing with Russia. That's the whole reason they went into Ukraine, because there are a lot of ethnic Russians in Ukraine and they want them back. Anyway, that's going to come to the end of our time together for today. And again, this could explain why Gen Z is so cranky. Looking at you, Zelda, in case you're still there. Could explain a few things. But anyway, we're going to get out of here. Don't forget, coming up here in just about an hour, back with the Weekend News Roundup. Right here live on KLR Radio. Then back tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern for a special Kingdom and Country with a very special guest giving testimony. Stay tuned, everybody. Busy Friday, and I'll be here for all of it. Hopefully you will be too. Bye for now. Okay, we got to talk about this on the way out because I just saw this from MD in the chat. My guess is Florida man was a possible meth dealer. I'm going to give you the money on that. That's going to do it for this one.